it's hard to, we can't emphasize enough that we consider ourselves a group of working people. In America, in this country, the average worker doesn't consider himself or herself a part of the working class. That's how devoid of consciousness our class is at this moment. But it doesn't have to stay this way. If you look carefully, you look around, what they're doing to our young people. You can't get a decent job. They pay you poverty wages intentionally and know that you can't live off of that. These kids are living 5 and 6 people in a 1-bedroom apartment. Ask me how I know. This is, it's just shame. The richest country in the world? Humbug. Listen, we have all kinds of opportunities before us. More than just the question of police brutality. America is definitely in decline. And in its decline holds the possibility of fundamental social change. But right now, let's move to this, to the police brutality thing. Now look, in America, from its inception, the question of race has been interwoven into the question of class. Let me try to explain. In America, I know, most people never think about this. I'm reading a book right now that's called The Counter-Revolution of 1776. And it's just amazing that, initially in America, the overwhelming majority of people that worked were black. I didn't know this. I never studied the numbers. I always assumed that the number of slaves was less than the number of settlers. Not true at all. On a program called Democracy Now!, the 24th would be Friday. You can go on your computer and write democracynow.org, the 24th of July, and judge for yourself. Because no one would expect you to just take my statements and opinions and, feel that it's necessarily fact. But I assure you, this information was all researched. So these 3 women formed Black Lives Matter. The results has been explosive. Ever since Michael Brown, the situation of Michael Brown and Ferguson broke out, these people, let's face it, let's give them credit where credit is due. They kept it going. They kept, kind of pushing it and getting the information out there and stirring people. And eventually, at demonstrations, we began to see people with signs that said, Black Lives Matter. In fact, I must say, I was somewhat gratified in December 4th of last year to see thousands of young white people with signs, carrying signs that said, Black Lives Matter. I said, hell, I'd have died and went to heaven. What's going on here? This is a positive thing. It's good. Now, while there's a lot that's good, there's also, and I would argue the overwhelming majority of what they say and what they have said is, I think, true and correct. But I'm sorry, I'm from the school of thought that teaches us that a teaspoonful of tar spoils a barrel of honey. Okay? And here's why I say that. While they are overwhelmingly correct and their observations true, in my opinion, not everything that they think is necessarily correct. And that's normal. Who is 100% right about everything? This is where meetings like this, discussions, study, that's where it comes in so that we can, in fact, make the necessary adjustments. Okay? So one of the adjustments that I'm going to try to deal with now is the question of, and you have seen it in our literature, we have said, Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. the Manchester Guardian, which is located in England, of all places, began to start keeping count and said, okay, well, look, the FBI doesn't know. The FBI doesn't know. They know everything else, huh? But they don't know how many people are being killed by the police. In fact, we found out that there is no governmental body to which that is their responsibility. Do you believe it?
Yeah.
You talking about black lives don't matter. Let's look at it again now. They're not counting nobody. Why? Because they don't want you to know. It's that simple. So after the Manchester Guardian started keeping a tally, what shapes up is the following. Let me see if I can throw some of this at you. I'm not trying to convince, throw too much at you. But listen to this. Police kill more whites than blacks in America. But minority deaths generate more outrage. What does that headline mean? Well, I'll tell you what it does mean. Because of black people's specific history in this country, we are kind of ready for it. We know that they ain't up to no good when it comes to that killing thing. We're in trouble. This is terror by the 1% because of their fear, because they are afraid and they got reason to be afraid. And what that terror is, look, it's very simple. Kill one, terrorize millions. To make you hesitate, to make you fear speaking up or speaking back. That's what it's about. It doesn't work because ultimately people are going to, resist. People are going to speak back. We saw, I hope you may have seen the unfortunate incident that occurred with Sandra Bland, right? Now, here's the point about that, though. This woman, Sandra Bland, got a job in Texas. The cops are riding behind her. She pulls over, but she doesn't signal. And the next thing you know, she's dead in prison. Well, once we start to see the tapes that have been released, we start to see the sickness that is in some of our police officers. Because basically, yes, she was feisty. Yes, she spoke up for her in defense of herself the best way she could. But they took this woman out the car, threatened her, banged her head on the concrete. And the young man that was taking a video of this, of course, they tried to intimidate him.